You don't need another motivational video. You don't need another sermon to tickle your ears. You need a word that shakes your soul, pulls back the curtain, and exposes the real reason the enemy's been attacking you since you were a child. I'm not here today to make you feel good. I'm here to remind you who you are and why you can't afford to walk away now. Because if you've been feeling the heat, the pressure, the silence, the confusion, it might just be because you've been chosen. Yeah, I said it, chosen. Not popular, not praised, not perfect, but picked by God before you ever took your first breath. Picked for something bigger than you. And when heaven picks you, hell marks you. So don't be surprised when the attacks come early, when the isolation gets deep, when the delays feel long. Chosen people don't get to live casual lives. Chosen people get processed. So before you scroll, before you quit, before you think this is just another feel-good message, I dare you to pause. Because what I'm about to share could be the reason your entire season shifts. Could be the reason your faith finds its fire again. Could be the reason you finally understand why God allowed the pain, why he withheld the answer, and why the calling on your life just won't let you go. This ain't just for anybody. This is for the ones who've been set apart, the ones who've cried in private but showed up in public, the ones who feel like they're carrying something they didn't ask for but can't ignore. You're not crazy, you're chosen. And if you can lean in, if you can push past the distractions, the doubts, and the lies, you're about to receive clarity, not hype, revelation. You're about to understand why your battle has been so intense and why your breakthrough is tied to your obedience, not your comfort. So don't just watch this. Digest it, absorb it, let it read you while you read it. Because before you walk fully in what you've been called to, there's something you must hear. Now let's talk. Being chosen doesn't mean being comfortable. And we've got too many people out here who want the crown without the cross, who want the promise without the process. But let me tell you something. If God has his hand on you, if he has truly set you apart, then comfort is not going to be your constant companion. Because purpose is heavy, and calling doesn't come with cushions. All throughout Scripture, the ones God chose had to go through something. Abraham had to leave everything familiar. Moses had to face Pharaoh after 40 years in the wilderness. David got anointed king, but went right back to tending sheep. Then spent years dodging spears from the very man he was supposed to replace. So if you're wondering why your life doesn't look easy, why your journey feels longer than you thought, or why you're wrestling with things people around you don't even understand, it might just be because you've been chosen. And being chosen always comes with a cost. You see, when God chooses you, he doesn't just hand you the assignment. He shapes you for it. He presses you, molds you, refines you in private long before he ever reveals you in public. Because God is not interested in promoting people who can't carry the weight of what they've been called to do. And that kind of preparation, that kind of shaping, it's not comfortable. You may have prayed to God, use me. But what you didn't know is that when you ask to be used, you're also asking to be stretched. You're asking to be misunderstood. You're asking to be taken through seasons where the spotlight is off and the spotlight in heaven is on, where God is watching how you respond when no one is clapping, no one is calling, and no one is validating what he told you in private. There's a reason some of you have been in lonely places. There's a reason you don't fit in the rooms you used to enjoy. There's a reason you feel like something is stirring on the inside, but nothing seems to be moving on the outside. That tension you feel is not punishment. It's preparation. God is calling you deeper. He's stripping away distractions, idols, relationships, and comforts that could contaminate your calling. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels unfair. But when God is truly working in you, he's not trying to pamper you. He's trying to prepare you. We love the word of favor, but we forget that favor in the Bible rarely looked like fame. Favor looked like Joseph in a pit. It looked like Daniel in a lion's den. It looked like Esther risking her life before a king. Don't confuse God's silence with his absence. Don't confuse discomfort with disapproval. Just because it's hard doesn't mean you're out of alignment. Sometimes it's hard because you're exactly where you're supposed to be. God is stretching your faith, strengthening your endurance, and silencing the noise so you can finally hear his voice clearly. And let me say this, if you're looking around at other people's lives and wondering why theirs seems smoother or simpler, stop measuring your calling by their comfort. Number two, some are called to walk, others are called to run. But if you've been chosen, truly chosen, your path will be marked with pressure because the assignment on your life carries eternal weight. You can't afford to live casual. You can't afford to entertain distractions. You can't afford to shrink just because it got hard. There's something on your life that heaven recognizes and hell fears. And while everybody else may be chasing convenience, God is calling you to commitment. So yes, it's going to cost you. It might cost you friendships. It might cost you sleep. It might cost you being understood. But when you carry the presence of God, you carry something greater than popularity. You carry purpose. The truth is, some people won't understand why you had to walk through what you did. They'll look at your story and only see the glory. But you'll know there was a process, there was a price. And before you were trusted with influence, you were tested in isolation. So don't despise the discomfort. Don't rush the process. Embrace the fire because the fire is forming you. You are being shaped for something that eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard, and hearts haven't conceived. And when God gets done with you, when He brings you into the place He's been preparing you for, you'll look back and realize comfort never could have made you ready for the calling. One of those frustrating things for a chosen one is when you hear what God said, but you don't see what God said. You believed the promise, you felt the pull, you even stepped out in faith, but now all you see is delay. All you feel is silence. You're stuck in the middle between the word God gave you and the fulfillment of it, and everything in you is asking a God, where are you? But hear me today, divine delays are not denials. They're development. When God puts a pause on something, He's not ignoring you, He's building you. And if you don't understand this truth, you'll walk away from a process that was designed to prepare you for the promise. You've got to remember, when God called Moses, He didn't send him straight to Pharaoh. He put him in the wilderness for 40 years. When David was anointed king, he didn't get a throne, he got chased. Joseph had dreams of influence and leadership, but where did he end up? In a pit, in a prison, Ugason by people he helped. Not because God had changed his mind, but because God was changing Joseph's heart. You see, when God gives you a calling, He'll often allow a delay, because the weight of the assignment requires a different version of you than the one that received the word. Delays stretch your character. They confront your pride. They expose what you depend on when nothing seems to be moving. God will use the weight to reveal whether you're in love with the calling or in love with the one who called you. Because when the applause fades, when the doors stay closed, when the breakthrough doesn't come on your schedule, what's left is your faith. And let's be honest, most of us want the result without the refinement. We want the blessing without the breaking. But there are some things God can only build in you through time. There are lessons that cannot be rushed, character that can't be microwaved, endurance that must be developed in the dark. So don't let the enemy lie to you and tell you that delay means denial. No. If anything, delay is confirmation that you're being crafted, not canceled. Some of you are in a season right now where it feels like everything is on hold. You're doing what you know to do. You're praying, you're believing, you're trying to stay faithful, but doors just aren't opening. People aren't responding. Your name isn't being called. It's easy in moments like that to start doubting if you ever heard God correctly in the first place. But don't confuse God's silence with His absence. When heaven goes quiet, it's not because God, it's because He's working in places you can't yet see. That relationship that didn't work out, that job that slipped through your fingers, that opportunity that looked perfect but shut in your face, those were not accidents. Sometimes God delays what you thought you needed because He knows what your spirit really requires. He delays to protect you from premature exposure. He delays to mature your thinking. He delays because what's ahead of you carries so much weight, you've got to be fortified to carry it. God is not just interested in getting you to the promise. He wants to make sure you don't lose yourself when you get there. Because what good is a platform if your character can't hold it? What good is the promise if you forfeit your peace? So yes, He'll take His time. Yes, He'll put you in a season where it feels like nothing is happening. But oh, trust me, something is happening. In you, around you, through you. The delay is doing the deep work that success never could. And don't forget, God is never late. He's not bound by your clock. He's bound by His glory. When He releases you into the fullness of what He's called you to, it will not only bless you, it will reflect Him. So the wait, It's not wasted. It's woven into the design of your destiny. It's forming patience, teaching discernment, producing humility. It's the classroom where leaders are forged and chosen ones are confirmed. So if you're in the waiting room right now, don't get weary. Don't walk out. Assume God has overlooked you. He's watching. He's working. He's waiting for the appointed time. The moment when you are fully ready and the assignment is fully aligned. And when that time comes, the delay will make sense. The doors will open. The favor will flow. And you'll realize that God didn't forget you. He formed you. The enemy doesn't waste energy. He doesn't spend his time attacking what isn't a threat. So if you've been wondering why the fire's been hotter in your life, why the warfare started so early, why you faced battles that seem to come out of nowhere, let me break it down for you. It's because you've been marked. You've been chosen. And the enemy knew it even when you didn't. He saw it before you did. He saw the oil on your life when you were still fumbling around in insecurity. He saw the potential when you were still lost in confusion. He saw the power of what God deposited in you, and he launched an attack early, hoping you'd never wake up to who you really are. That's why the fight has felt so personal. That's why the pressure has been so intense. That's why you've had to battle depression, anxiety, isolation, rejection, because the devil is trying to get you to forfeit your assignment before you ever step into it. And if we're being real, it's easy to forget this in the heat of the moment. It's easy to think, oh, why me? Why does it seem like I can't catch a break? Why do I keep getting hit from all sides? But what if you change the question? What if instead of asking a why me, you ask, what does the enemy see in me that I haven't seen in myself yet? Because make no mistake, chosen people don't get to live ordinary lives. And they don't get to go unnoticed by hell. Look at Jesus. Before he ever preached a sermon, before he healed one person, before he called one disciple, the enemy met him in the wilderness. Why? Because he was marked. And the devil doesn't wait until you're walking in full power to start attacking. He comes when you're most vulnerable. He comes when you're still learning who you are, still trying to figure out what God said, still wrestling with identity and purpose and timing. And he doesn't just come with the obvious stuff. No, he's strategic. He comes with discouragement, with confusion, with doubt. He whispers lies that sound like your own thoughts. We're not good enough. You'll never make it. Or that word wasn't for you. You're not really called. And if you don't recognize the voice behind the attack, you'll start believing that the battle is a sign you're doing something wrong, when in fact, it's confirmation that you're on the right track. You've got to understand, spiritual warfare is not random, it's targeted. The enemy attacks your peace because he knows your clarity is tied to it. He attacks your relationships because he knows the right connections can launch your calling. He attacks your mind because if he can get your thoughts, he can control your decisions. And some of you have been fighting battles not because you're weak, but because you're dangerous. Heaven has declared something over your life, and hell is trying to derail it. But here's the thing, what God ordains, hell can't override. No attack, no demon, no opposition can cancel the anointing on your life. You may be delayed, you may be discouraged, but you are not defeated. The presence of a battle is not the absence of God. It's often the evidence of his hand. And let me remind you, God doesn't waste warfare. Every hit you've taken, every night you cried, every door that slammed, every setback that confused you, it's all going to serve a purpose. The enemy thought he was breaking you, but God is using it to build you. The fight is revealing the strength you didn't know you had, the faith you didn't know was growing, the fire you didn't know was burning inside of you. So don't retreat. Don't throw in the towel. Don't let the enemy convince you that you're losing just because you're under pressure. Pressure produces power, and the same God who allowed the test is the same God who will use it to lift you. Your pain is not pointless. Your struggle is not in vain. You're being forged for something greater than you can see right now. There's something on the other side of this battle that the enemy desperately doesn't want you to reach. That's why he's hitting you so hard. That's why he's trying to wear you out. But you've got to make up your mind you didn't come this far to bow out now. You didn't survive what you did just to settle. You were chosen for this. And the enemy's resistance is proof that heaven has placed something powerful inside you. If you're still standing, you're still winning. One of the most dangerous traps for the chosen is not failure. It's success without presence. In this age where platforms are pursued, where influence is idolized, where being seen is treated like being significant, there's a quiet temptation to exchange intimacy with God for visibility with people. But let me say this plain and clear. Being chosen is not about popularity. It's not about building a brand. It's not about gathering followers. Being chosen is about carrying something sacred. And the presence of God is not something you perform. It's something you protect. You weren't called to impress people. You were called to host His glory. And that doesn't come from chasing stages, applause, or algorithms. That comes from time in the secret place. That comes from surrender when no one's watching. That comes from obedience when it costs you. See, the world wants to elevate you before you're ready, but God will hide you so that what He's placed in you is cultivated, not contaminated. We're living in a time where people are more concerned with building a platform than building an altar, but chosen ones know the difference. Chosen ones don't just want to be seen. They want to be sent. They don't just want influence. They want impact. They don't just want crowds. They want confirmation from heaven. Because when the lights fade and the applause dies, only the presence of God can sustain your soul. That's why you've got to check your motives. That's why you've got to ask yourself, am I doing this because I'm called or because I want to be known? You see, when you truly carry the presence, you don't need to chase anything. Doors will open. Opportunities will find you. But you have to decide now, will you value being with God more than being seen by man? Because the same crowd that cheers for you today can cancel you tomorrow. But the presence, that never changes, that never leaves, that never fails. Remember David? He was anointed king in private long before he ever sat on a throne. He didn't market himself. He didn't promote himself. He didn't fight for attention. He stayed with the sheep. He served in obscurity. He honored God when nobody knew his name. And that's why he could carry the weight of kingship, because he had been forged in the fields. He didn't chase the platform, he carried the presence. That's why God could trust him. That's why the oil flowed when others were overlooked, because God is not impressed by talent. He's not moved by charisma. He's looking for character. He's looking for consistency in private. There are too many people trying to skip the secret place and still expect power in public. But God doesn't operate like that. If you haven't been with Him, you won't reflect Him. You might entertain people, but you won't transform them. You might gather crowds, but you won't break chains, because only the presence of God can do that. And if you've been chosen, you've got to protect the presence at all costs. That means turning down some invitations. That means walking away from some temptations. That means staying grounded when your name starts getting attention. Don't let success pull you out of submission. Don't let the platform rob you of your posture. The moment you start thinking you can do this without Him is the moment you start drifting away from the very thing that made you effective in the first place. Stay low, stay surrendered, stay sensitive, because the higher God lifts you, the deeper your roots have to grow. And let me remind you, if you carry the presence, you carry something this world can't explain. You'll walk into rooms and shift atmospheres. You'll speak and strongholds will break. You'll live in a way that draws people not to yourself, but to the one who called you. And that's the goal. That's the mission. To be a vessel, not the source. To be a reflection, not the focus. Chosen ones don't crave credit, they crave obedience. So don't chase being liked. Don't chase being known. Chase His voice, chase His presence, chase His will. Because when it's all said and done, platforms fade, titles change, trends disappear. But what you carry in the Spirit will echo through eternity. When you carry the presence, you don't have to force anything. His glory makes room for you.